2026 meeting of the Public Works Subcommittee of the Fitchburg City Council. I now call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. Please be advised that FATV is conducting audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves by standing and stating their name and city of residence. Seeing none, I ask that at this time all electronic devices be placed into silent mode. For public comment, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak, please step up to the podium, state your name, city of residence, and the agenda item for which you'd like to speak for not more than 2 minutes. Again, no one is here, so we will go beyond that. Councilors present at tonight's meeting is Councilor Boschman, Councilor Schultz, myself, and Councilor Cruz. And the first item on the agenda today is to vote to approve the minutes from the March 31st, 2026 meeting. Does anybody have a motion to approve that?
Approve. Second.
Motion from Councilor Schultz, a second from Councilor Cruz. Anyone speaking to the motion? Not seeing any objections. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the DPW update. Commissioner Erickson, thank you for joining us today. And what do you have for us?
All right. Thank you, Chair Bowen. So keeping with the typical format, I've prepared a written update broken up by division. I'll go through each division fairly quickly. A lot of this update is substantially similar to the update that I gave last month, with a couple of exceptions specifically focused around some of the construction projects that we have going on. So we'll start with the cemetery division. Cemetery division is busy cleaning up the cemeteries in advance of Memorial Day. They're also working on a few other projects, but there hasn't been really much movement on any of these projects since last meeting. Those include the Memorial Gardens / Columbarium area expansion project, the Forest Hill Abbey Mausoleum project, and the Forest Hill Cemetery expansion project. All of those are in progress, but moving rather slowly at this time. So any questions on cemetery? All right, moving right on to engineering. A lot of what engineering does stays on this list throughout the year: conservation and planning board reviews, street opening and trench permits and inspections, streetlight repairs, dig safe markouts, and then we're getting into some of the construction projects, so I'll expand on those a little bit more. We've got the Mass DOT bridge projects at River Street and Water Street. On River Street, the bridge deck was placed last week by the contractor, Northern, who's working on behalf of Mass DOT. That project is moving along very well. We're hopeful that by the end of this calendar year, that bridge is back open to traffic in both lanes, both directions. But we don't have a final update from or a firm update from the contractor. So that's just tentative at this point in time. The Water Street Bridge project, MIG, the contractor who's working on behalf of Mass DOT, is planning to gear up for the sewer relocation work up on Main Street. And that's necessary before they start the bridge abutment work. So they're planning to start that next week, first down on Boulder Drive, and then up on the top side, up where Main Street and the Water Street Bridge intersect. So there will be traffic impacts and detours and temporary closures of both Boulder Drive and at least restricted travel on Main Street, not full closure, but more information regarding the traffic control plans and detours will be forthcoming through the mayor's office once that's finalized with the city, MassDOT, and MIG, the contractor. And then the most important thing I think everyone wants to hear is that all of our paving contracts for 2026 are out to bid currently. So I've listed all 6 of these contracts on the written update. The first is Arnhow Farm Road, from Ashby State to just past the entrance to the high school. The second is West Main Street from roughly the roundabout at River and Main, moving west towards Ashburnham Hill Road and West Street. The Twin City Rail Trail Connector, which includes some work on Railroad Street, some of the neighborhood around there. A Complete Streets project, which focuses on pedestrian safety upgrades at 2 locations, the first Electric and Rollstone Roundabout, and the second being Summer Street, with a few ADA crossings located at Matthew Street, Clyde Street, and Horseshoe Drive, approximately in the neighborhood of Bowtell Street and St. Bernard's Elementary School and the 99 for more recognizable landmarks. There's also Ward 1 paving, various locations that include Fairbanks, Monroe, Birch, and Haywood from Salem to Birch. And then a final various locations paving contract that includes Winter Street from Summer to Lawrence, Beacon Street from Summer to Lawrence, Stony Brook Road from Ridge Road to Village Crossing Road, just that little entrance section to Stony Brook. And then ADA crosswalks on John Fitch Highway near Coolidge Park. So I'll pause there. Any questions on the Engineering Division's report?
Councilor Boschman?
Yeah, two things. Nick, I still don't understand River Street Bridge, with all this construction, and it makes a lot more, and this bridge is not done yet, and it's that small. What the hell? How long is it going to take to do the Fifth Street, the bridge over here on Water Street and Boulder Drive? If this is taking 2 to 3 years, this is going to be eternity down there.
It's approximately the same duration for both projects, 2 to 3 years. The River Street Bridge was 2.5 years. I believe the same duration is planned for Water Street Bridge.
Because I thought when they did down by Independent Cleaners, it wasn't that long.
That was well before I worked for the city, so I don't remember. I can't comment on that.
Or even Kimball Street. Yeah. And the other thing, the paving. On this paving stuff here, how do we go about, I'd like to know how we go about and how do we pick it?
That's really not a topic for the agenda today. This is an update as to work that we're doing. Do you have any questions about the work that we're doing?
Well, I'm asking the question.
I know, I don't.
Because my problem, what's happening, Nick, I'm here at the meeting right now. We're sitting right here, and you're explaining to me what's going to happen. I'll get home again tonight, and I'll start getting phone calls. And they'll be saying to me, the residents of my ward, St. Joseph Ave, Madison Street, Wall Street, King Street, Bernadette Street, Jeanette Street, Ohio Ave, all these streets that haven't been paved for over 40 years. And they asked me, well, when are they going to do them? I said, well, we can't put petitions in because I agree that with the philosophy that it gets picked. Now, you're going to come back to me and you're going to say, well, we did, Mr. Boschman, Councilman Boschman, we just did Clarendon Street all the way. And I'll come back with an answer, well, that was supposed to be done when they did the wastewater treatment plant, that job, the water source separation. Just like they did on Beach Street, that you and I walked that whole thing and made everybody aware that there would be no parking on the sidewalks. And the same thing we did on Clarendon Street, no parking on the sidewalks. So they're asking me these questions, and I don't know if anybody's taking a ride on these streets, because they are deplorable.
So, Councilor Boschman, I have talked to you about this at length many, many times about how we pick streets to pave. I've talked about it in this meeting. I've talked about it in other meetings that are publicly televised. I've described to you exactly how we do it, what criteria we use. I've described it in this meeting. I've described it in city council meetings. I don't have another 3 hours tonight to discuss that. If you'd like to talk offline, we can. But right now, I'm presenting the things that we have out to bid. That's what's on this sheet of paper in front of me, and that's the update that I'm presenting to you. Nowhere on this agenda or on this update is the topic of how we discuss or how we choose paving, roads for paving. I'm happy to talk to you about that in a format that's not this meeting.
Well, Nick, I guess we'll do that.
And I have personally driven every street in your ward. I know exactly the condition that they're in. The city has 180 miles of public roadway with an average PCI score of about 51 or 52. That's a horrible PCI score. That means most of the roads in the city are in horrible condition. For us to even catch up with the paving work that we need to do, we need to start allocating 12 to 15 million a year towards paving. And we allocate only our Chapter 90 money.
I understand.
Only Chapter 90 money, only less than 2 million. Every year that we continue to do that, we fall further and further behind. You've heard it from me. You've heard it from the previous commissioner, Nick Bosnetto. You've heard it from the commissioner before that, Lenny Laxo. At the end of the day, I don't have control over the city's budget. The city council does. And I can't dedicate more money to paving. I just can't. I can ask for it. And I have, and I don't get it. So to argue about this in Public Works Committee meetings is entirely futile.
I wouldn't call it futile. I have to argue with my residents on the phone to tell them the reasons why we're not doing it. I explained the exact same thing to them as you explained to me. Exactly. We don't have the money, we don't have the money, we don't have the money. How they pick, I try to explain to them. And then they won't pave if we're going to dig up the road. Just the other day, I tried to explain to a guy on Madison Street, and he didn't even believe me. And he says, this is terrible. And I said, well, the gas line's coming down here. Look at all the lines they painted. I said, they're not going to pave if they're going to dig up the road. And I agree with 100%.
There's gas work, there's water main work, there's combined sewer separation work. All that utility work needs to be done before roads get paved, so that helps dictate what we can and can't pave. It's part of the combined sewer separation projects that we have going on, which we'll get into a little bit later on in this update. There's approximately 7 miles of paving coming down the pipeline between all of the combined sewer separation projects happening in and around Main Street and north of Main Street. None of that is in your ward right now, but we're starting the investigations for the combined sewer separation work in your ward to separate out CSO 004. And after that project goes, there'll be a substantial amount of paving in your ward on all those streets. Maybe not all the streets you just mentioned. We'd have to go through that combined sewer separation project and figure that out. But that's the primary driver right now of how we choose which roads to pave, is what roads have the utility work done and which ones don't. That's a gross oversimplification. I could spend 3 hours or more talking about all that stuff and how we choose our roads, because it's a lot more complex than people appreciate or understand. But in a nutshell, we look at the volume of the road, what the condition of the road is, if it's a mill and fill, if it's a full depth reclamation road, a lot of different factors there, what we have to spend, whether utility work is done or not. All these factors are just a few of the things that we look at. So it's a lot more than we can cover in this meeting. And if you'd like me to give a presentation at some point as to exactly how we choose those roads, we can do that. But one of the things that I'm running into is that the stuff that we discussed in these updates is not on our agenda for the Public Works Committee meeting. And it needs to be on the agenda for us to discuss this in detail. My updates are not intended to be an in-depth discussion of these things with questions and answers and everything. I go far above and beyond what was previously done for DPW updates at Public Works Committee meetings with what I do. But it's getting to the point where we're spending an hour and a half on these updates and we're spending 10 minutes on the actual meeting itself. And we've got to stop doing that.
Do you yield the floor, sir?
You set me straight.
And like I said, Paul, I'm happy to talk
Are you
about
all
this
set,
stuff
Counselor?
for hours and hours outside of these meetings.
No, don't get me wrong. I understand you're getting just as much frustrated as we all are. I understand that wholeheartedly. But the reason why I asked you, so this way here, you're saying it on TV.
Councilor Boschman, we've covered this. We've covered the
That's all I'm saying
points.
it for. All right, I got no other questions. That's
Okay,
it.
thank you. Councilor Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Erickson, thanks for coming in. You do an excellent job with these updates. I really appreciate them. I want to ask about the paving management plan. No worries. We'll go right to my other question. I recently did a week in Sedona, Arizona with my family for vacation, and I noticed that their roundabouts are built in such a way that they really, really successfully calm traffic. They're wide, the lanes people can travel are narrow, and they have to take that, you have to take that full circle. And particularly because it is on the agenda here, Rollstone Roundabout, we got a lot of people bomb right through it, right? And I know that's a police matter as well, but when we do these roundabouts to calm traffic, and people think it's to speed traffic up, and it's wrong, it's to calm traffic.
Right.
How do we determine how, like, the width of that? Because right now, I think that one at Rollstone is too small, because it's just still a straight shot right through. So will that be changed for this intersection, or?
So that roundabout is on the small side. It's basically the smallest that qualifies to meet Mass DOT standard for a roundabout, similar to that. So the work that we're planning to do is funded through the Complete Streets Grant Program, and it's really only addressing pedestrian safety at that roundabout. So right now, there's crosswalks that lead to nowhere. You can't actually cross through the entire roundabout. You can go across between Cumberland Farms and the cemetery, but really that's the only crosswalk that makes any sense there. So the grant money that was provided through the Complete Streets Grant Program is to fix the connectivity of all the other crosswalks to all the other legs of the roundabout. It's not to redesign the roundabout itself or make any geometric improvements to the roundabout. Now, I agree with you, if the space is available for a larger roundabout, it's nice to have that kind of offset and channelization to slow traffic as you move through there, similar to the roundabout at Mechanic and John Fitch and Ringe Road, or even the roundabout over at River Kimball Street in Daniels. Both of those do a little bit more to calm traffic and kind of get you to slow down as you're trying to weave through the roundabout and the approaches. But unfortunately, we're limited on space over at the roundabout at Rollstone and Electric, and we can't make that center inscribed circle any larger, really, and we don't have the room to make the deflections that we need in advance of getting into that roundabout to really calm traffic down the way that it should be. So I think the primary issue is the traffic coming down the hill, Rollstone headed north, basically towards the city. And what we're planning to do is add some advanced warning signage to try to get drivers to slow down a little bit there, and just give them a more advanced warning that the roundabout's coming up. We're also looking to improve sightline on that corner. There's a lot of brush that grows in over there. There's an old guardrail that's dilapidated that really isn't functioning anymore, so we want to remove and replace that. So those are the things that are included in the grant scope of work, and that's what we're limited to do.
Gotcha. Thanks for the update.
Yep.
You have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Schultz?
Yeah, I just want to say that I really appreciate your updates, and yeah, if there's too many questions, it does tend to drag on, unfortunately, for a long period of time. And you're right, we need to shorten that time if we can. But I'll also say, for Councilor Boschman's benefit, that the Ward 1 paving was a separate grant due to that terrible storm we had, and that was a separate amount of money that we got from the state to
Right.
repair those, to pave those roads, because they were heavily damaged a couple of years ago due to that rainstorm. So it isn't that, Ward 1 is being singled out to be helped more than any other ward. It's because that was the storm and that was the devastation in
Right.
Ward 1.
Right, and one of those criteria that we use for selecting roads to be paved is the funding source. If we have grant funds or some other funding source that allows us to do something, we're not just going to not do that work because we've got other roads that are in worse condition. If we are given money to do something, then we're going to take advantage of that free money and get something done.
And those roads were targeted with that money.
Exactly, they were part of that, I think it was July 15th, 2023 rainstorm, or July 18th, I forget the exact date. But that money did come from the state.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the comments about the updates. The other thing I'm trying to avoid is any sort of open meeting law violation, because we're supposed to speak to items that are on our agenda. And while the update itself is on the agenda, the contents of the update aren't really an agenda item. And if we offer up too much discussion on the actual update, then I think it violates that open meeting law.
Right, yeah. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. And we can move on to the next topic.
Okay, next up, we've got Parks and Rec. They are working on spring cleanups through all our city's parks, starting up irrigation systems, installing backflow preventers, and then working diligently to try to open up the pool and the splash pads. As you all know, the pool takes a substantial amount of work every year to get that back up and running. It's old. It was constructed when Mary Whitney was the mayor, and I'm amazed that we're still able to open it up every year. I think we've only got a couple more years left before we need to start thinking about another pool, but we're going to try once again this year to get it up and running. So right now, the guys are also working on the bathhouse over there too. Just today, they installed some new gutters, and the building looks fantastic. It's been repainted, the inside's been rehabbed and everything, so it's looking the best it has in several years. Any questions on Parks and Rec?
I just have a statement. I wanted to thank your crew for all the help with the cleanups. I know we're halfway through the official city cleanups this season, and the city's looking really great. And I know that your team is heavily involved in trying to support all the volunteers, as well as do their own pickup work to make the city look good. And so I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thanks to all the volunteers, including yourself, that help out during those ward cleanups. It's much appreciated. The city wouldn't look good without the volunteers helping out like that.
Agreed.
Moving on to Streets Division, a lot of this stuff is carried over from update to update. Ongoing traffic signal repairs to repair outages and various other issues, pothole patching, sidewalk repairs, catch basin and culvert repairs, street sweeping, which is ongoing in all the wards, moving from ward to ward per the schedule that's posted on the city's website. Stump removals, plow damage repairs, such as torn up lawns, berms, mailboxes, et cetera, catch basin cleaning, and sign repairs. Any questions for Streets Division?
I just have one comment.
Yes.
On the catch basins, if a catch basin is near your home, could you please try to clean it up? I mean, I've got two near my home, and I try to keep them clean. I mean, it would help a lot, because when we do the city cleanups, we see a lot of the catch basins, got leaves in them and sometimes trash, and it'd be nice if people just near their homes, even if they just did one catch basin, near their home, it would be such a help to all of us.
Yeah, agreed. Any little bit helps. They get clogged up with, leaves and debris and nip bottles and all that stuff. So even if it's just going out there and using your foot to kind of scrape that stuff away.
Yeah, just use your foot and move it away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we typically try to send out our catch basin cleaning truck throughout the construction season, but it's one truck and one person for roughly 3,000 catch basins across the city. So it works all year, and it's still not really enough to keep up. We really should have a dedicated fleet of a 2 or 3 of those that go out every day, but we just don't have that ability. Any other questions on Streets Division? All right, moving on to the wastewater division. So wastewater has some pretty substantial construction going on right now. The CSO 10 project is complete. So that's the combined sewer separation work up in the Arlington Bond View Street area that happened over the past few years. Those roads were paved after that work was complete. Right now we have GVC construction working on the CSO 3245 separation rehabilitation project. So they were working in the Elm Street, High Street area over the past construction season and through the winter. And you've probably noticed them just this week moving down to the Upper Common Main Street area. They've been saw cutting their trenches, and they're beginning to work on that combined sewer separation work, drainage installation, sewer installation, et cetera. That work out there is expected to be ongoing for the next couple of months. So there'll be heavy traffic impacts around the Upper Common area. Many thanks to the FPD and the detail officers for doing what they do every day to try to move traffic around these construction areas. Without them, it would be a nightmare out there. We also have the CSO 4583 separation rehabilitation project. So that is in design. The city just did a design review workshop with the engineering firm last week, and we intend to bid that project out in the next couple of weeks. Once we have that project bid out, have a contractor on board, we'll have a more firm schedule as to when that work will begin. But that is the last piece of the Main Street combined sewer separation work. And that'll be ongoing for likely the next 2 construction seasons, so 2027 and 2028. So that'll be the last of the Main Street work. And then we'll be able to pave the road and do the sidewalks. Then we have the CSO 4 separation rehabilitation project. And Councilor Boschman, that is the one that's happening in your ward. So crews are out doing smoke testing and some of the preliminary investigatory work right now. It's anticipated that that design will take approximately a year, and we'll be bidding it out at this time next year for construction late next year or the following year. And then down at the East Plant, we've got 2 projects ongoing. One is the East Wastewater Treatment Facility Lab and Control Room Upgrade Project. That one's substantially complete. They're working through punch list items right now. That was a project to update the laboratory and control room. I don't know if anyone's been down to the East Plant, but it formerly looked like something straight out of the 1970s, huge control panels. That's all been removed and consolidated and modernized, and the plant looks like a different place now. And they did a great job with the construction work. We also have the East Wastewater Treatment Facility Automation Design Project. We've got an engineering consultant looking at this and figuring out ways to automate the treatment process down there to reduce the need to staff the plant 24/7, 365. And then we have an ongoing work on a request for qualifications, or request for proposals, that should say, for the West Plant Anaerobic Digester Facility. We had a group in that was planning to move forward with design, finance, and build and operate an anaerobic digester at the West Plant. Unfortunately, they lost their funding and had to back out. We're looking to put back out another RFP to move forward with a substantially similar project there. We've had interest from a few different groups on that, so we're hopeful that that project is not dead on the vine. Any questions on the wastewater division?
No questions?
Water division. So we've got the Main Street Water Main Replacement Project. Right now, the contractor's working on water main replacements between Pritchard Street and Blossom Street. By the end of this week, they hope to be east of Blossom Street, right around the intersection with the Water Street Bridge. So there's a lot of ongoing coordination between the city, J.A. Polito and Sons, who's doing that water main replacement project, and MassDOT and their contractor, MIG, just to make sure that traffic controls are planned for when those 2 projects are going to overlap and meet in the coming weeks. J.A. Polito and Sons is making good progress, but they've had to temporarily restrict traffic on Main Street, so there's been some detours in place for the past couple of weeks, and that will likely continue as they move eastward through Lower Main Street, ultimately ending at the Morin Square area. We've also got a contractor working on the Meeting House Gatehouse rehabilitation project. That project is substantially complete, and they're working on punch list items. That was a project to rehabilitate the Meeting House Gatehouse, which is the intake for the terminal reservoir, Meeting House Reservoir, that feeds the regional water treatment facility in Westminster. We're also working on the Water Street Water Main Replacement Project. That's actually being conducted by MassDOT through their contractor, MIG, who's the one doing the bridge work. That will likely happen at some point this summer. Right now, we're working on the planning stage things with MassDOT and the contractor. Also working on the Mare Meadow and Bickford Pump Station Rehab Project. So Mare Meadow and Bickford Pond are 2 very high water quality reservoirs in Hubbardston, and we pump water from those 2 reservoirs down into Meeting House Reservoir to feed the regional treatment plant over in Westminster. And this is a project to rehab the pump station there that handles the flow into and out of those 2 reservoirs. So that right now is underway. The contractor, R.H. White, has been fantastic, and the project is on schedule and on budget at this point. And finally, we have the regional Falula water treatment plants capital upgrade planning study. So both of our water treatment plants are nearing their 25-year life age. And at this point, a lot of the internals of the plant are starting to show their age, show wear, and need to be upgraded or replaced. So this is a study to figure out what condition everything is in, what needs to be replaced, how much it's going to cost, et cetera. So at some point, we'll need to figure out how to fund that. It'll likely have to be some sort of a loan or potentially an SRF loan. Could be a possibility. Be a way to fund it at a low interest rate. Any questions on the water division's work?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. We have 2 petitions this evening that were held from the last meeting. and there have been some developments and some news on each. And I'd like to start with petition 160-125, which is Councilor Marissa Fleming on behalf of Jessica DeMayo of 74 Dartmouth Street to install a stop sign at the intersection of Montrose Street and Dartmouth Street. Every intersection on Montrose Street has at least 2 stop signs, but this intersection does not. Commissioner Erickson, would you like to start with the engineering recommendations?
Sure. We had DPW engineering look at this. Matt put together a summary memo, which I've shared with you all. I'll give a quick summary of that. So the location of concern is at the intersection of Montrose Street and Dartmouth Street. It's not currently designated as stop controlled per city code. The neighboring intersections on Montrose Street are currently stop controlled. So it's my understanding that the resident would like to see this intersection also stop controlled. So Matt took a look at this. Based on his review, he says the installation of stop signs at this location was determined to be justified in order to meet driver expectation along Montrose Street. In order to present a consistent stop pattern, the stop sign should be installed on both of the Dartmouth Street approaches. This configuration provides an alternating stop pattern along Montrose Street. Additionally, he recommends 2 no parking here to corner signs installed approximately 40 feet from both sides of the intersection on Dartmouth Street to ensure that vehicles traveling along Dartmouth Street can see the proposed stop signs. The other thing that he mentioned is that at both ends of Montrose Street, the northern end where it intersects Klondike Ave and the southern end where it intersects Lawton Ave, neither of those intersections have stop signs either, and they really should. So his recommendation is that as part of this petition, we wrap in all of the signage that needs to be placed on Montrose Street, but that would require the petition being amended to also add a stop sign at those 2 locations. If we were to do that, we'd be looking at the installation of 1, 2, 3, 4 stop signs and 2 no parking here to corner signs, which would be easily doable by the DPW Streets Division.
Thank you. Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Erickson, how much does a stop sign cost?
The sign itself is generally around $50. The posts are actually a little bit more expensive. That's the expensive part. Those can be, $100, $120.
Okay.
So all in, you're probably looking at $150 with hardware, maybe $175 plus the labor to install. Labor isn't a ton of time. It's a guy going out there, putting the posts in the ground and then bolting the stop signs onto the post. So it's not anything more than a couple hours.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, no, that's kind of my point. Stop signs all signage is relatively cheap, and it's very, very important for public safety, so I've got no problem with this, and I will even make the amendment to add all 4 stop signs as amended by the DPW recommendation. They'll be added on Dartmouth and Lawton, is that what the suggestion is?
So the suggestion is for 2 stop signs on Dartmouth Street, 1 on either side of Montrose, and then 1 at the northern end of Montrose at Klondike and 1 at the southern end of Montrose at Lawton Ave.
Okay.
And the 2 no parking signs
And the 2
as
no
well.
parking signs,
Right.
yeah. So I will make the motion to amend based on the DPW's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the proposed changes from DPW Engineering from Councilor Cruz, a second from Councilor Schultz. Anyone speaking to the motion? Okay, seeing if there are no objections, we will approve the amendment. The petition is now in front of,
Motion to approve 161-25 as amended.
I have a motion to approve 161-25 as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilor Schultz. Anyone speaking to the motion? Seeing no objections, this is approved. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda is petition 20925, City Councilor Bernie Schultz on behalf of Jean-Bien Ami of 130 Lancaster Street to install a guardrail to protect life and property at the 130 Lancaster Street location as outlined in the enclosed petition. And Commissioner Erickson, would you be able to speak to the DPW's recommendation on that as well?
Sure. So DPW Engineering went out and looked at this. I believe Matt went out with Counselor Schultz.
Yeah, he did.
So he took a look at the location, he talked to FPD to determine crash history here. Based on his conversations with FPD, there was one crash here this past winter where the vehicle somehow found its way in between the utility pole that's there and the guy wire and essentially landed on the resident's front lawn. Didn't go any further than that, didn't go over the retaining wall that they have in front of their driveway, but caused some damage to their lawn nonetheless. Because there was no real damage there, it was just damage to a lawn, that type of crash doesn't necessarily warrant immediate action. We also had him look at bollards or some other type of barrier to be placed there, like a large boulder. Unfortunately, those two types of roadside safety treatments aren't what they call MASH compliant, and MASH is an acronym that stands for the Manual for Assessing Safety Hardware. Anything that you place along the roadside for a safety device needs to be MASH compliant. Usually guardrail is, bollards and boulders are not. So we can't in good conscience recommend that as a viable solution in this situation. Additionally, most of our roadside safety treatments are funded through the Mass DOT Chapter 90 program. Chapter 90 requires that all roadside safety treatments are MASH compliant. So obviously we couldn't use Chapter 90 money to install bollards or a boulder. We could use Chapter 90 for a guardrail. However, a guardrail in this location, Matt ran the numbers and estimated that it would cost approximately $40,000 at a minimum just to meet code and meet the extents necessary to accomplish the objective of preventing any vehicles from going off the roadway if they slid through that intersection. Because of the lack of real crash data there and the relatively large cost of installing that guardrail, we recommend no further action at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Anyone like to speak to this?
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, it was a little more than the lawn. They did take a tree down, a small tree, but, you know, like you said, there's not much history there. I mean, it is if they were to go off the front lawn there into the driveway, then there is a huge drop-off. That's why there's a guardrail further up on Lancaster Street, because of the huge drop-off. But at this time, I'll offer a leave to withdraw on this petition, and we'll just have to watch the history and see, because it is a relatively new house there, new construction there, so there isn't any history there to speak
I'll
of.
second that.
So
Was that a motion?
That was a motion to
Okay.
withdraw.
We have a motion to leave to withdraw. Is there a second?
Second it.
Have a second. Anyone speaking to the motion? Okay, seeing no objection, that is given leave to withdraw. Thank you, everybody. It is motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Second. We are adjourned, 5:42 PM. Thank you.